viewers. And now we will be making the video number 3 about the issues and problems of the tax structures. So I will be telling you about the presentation regarding the different presidents and leaders in our country and the law structures. And I will just be doing the voiceover while I'm presenting the presentation. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Tax Structure and Policies, Issues and Problems. National leadership regimes over the past 3 decades have recognized regional development as an important policy thrust and strategy for national development. To enhance regional development, the practice of regional allocation became an integral part in the national government budgeting system. Thus, national government agencies have tried to consider allocating its limited resources to respond to the diverse needs and priorities of the country's regions for greater efficiency and effectiveness. The last 3 decades saw the unique transformation and modifications of the policy and the practice of the regional budgeting. This presentation will show a comparison of the policy goals, instruments, and institutions adopted by the past government regimes in regional allocation. The system of regional budgeting adopted by each leadership can be classified along a continuum of centralized-decentralized system, in accordance with the budgeting authority and powers vested the various levels of government in the entire regional budgeting process framework. Through the years, the practice of regional budgeting transcended the programmatic approach and took a more holistic and development-oriented perspective. This has been institutionalized with a fuller integration of sub-national budgeting in the Synchronized Planning Program and Budgeting System, or also known as SPPPS, initiated during the Aquino administration. Initially, regional allocation was just a mere add-on procedure in the government budgeting system through plain allocation of a budget of the agency to its regional offices. Eventually, regional allocation adopted less simple procedure in an attempt to take into account national development goals and regional differences in priorities and needs. Now, let us start with the pre-martial law years. During the 1935 Philippine Constitution provided a basis for fiscal process and decisions prior to the martial law period. Under the framework set forth by the 1935 Constitution, budget initiative shall come from the executive branch while budget approval is lodged with Congress. Again, the framework is based from the 1935 Constitution, and the budget initiative will be lodged with the Congress. The Congress has absolute power and authority over project approval or disapproval as the budget is subjected to line-by-line scrutiny. So it's the responsibility of the Congress. It can even virtually abolish an agency by providing it with an extremely low appropriation that would make its existence unviable. Political maneuvering in the Congress affected the budget process to the extent that the final budget has become insensitive to the development requirements of the country. So the problem that we can identify and the issue and problem that we can identify here in the pre-martial law years is that the Congress has affected a lot in the budget process to the extent that the final budget will be insensitive already to the development requirements of the country, even if it's not enough for the budget, but still it becomes insensitive as they will be maneuvering politically as congressmen and affecting much in the budget process. And now, let's move to the martial law regime. During the Marcos's years, attempts were made to reform the fiscal process to avoid its being used for political gains and vested interest by the powerful groups and to a higher pursuit of making the budget more responsive to development policies and programs. With the proclamation of the martial law, the Congress was dissolved and therefore the biggest obstruction to the budget process was eliminated. Again, the Congress was eliminated during this time. With the authoritarian government at helm, the executive branch assumed full authority in the revenue and expenditure program. Again, to highlight, the executive branch is the one who will take over and have the full authority in the revenue and expenditure. The budget authority will have a limited power, and it will be still reviewed by the legislative branch, or what we call the National Assembly. The legislative, on the other hand, does not have the power to make budget increases but only to have reductions. It cannot abolish an agency, as it is only empowered to reduce the budget of the agency to a positive value that would allow at least for its existence. So basically they were just there for existence, to make reductions and not to make budget increases, as this responsibility is given to the executive branch already, as they have the full authority. While this reform remedied the inefficiencies of the previous democratic process, it virtually stripped the legislature of substantial fiscal powers. So as what we can see during this martial law regime, during the Marcos's years, when the martial law is already at helm, we can see the issue and concerns in here are that, first, that the Congress was dissolved already, and the biggest obstruction for the budget process was eliminated. And second, that the legislative body is only there for existence and cannot make increases but only reductions. And this reform remedied the inefficiencies of the previous democratic process. The important things that we must learn in this martial law regime are three things. First, let's tackle about letter of instruction from the President 447. All department and agency heads shall ask the regional offices to evolve their respective regional budgets in conformity with the priorities established by regional development councils. Involve said regional offices in the preparation of the department or agency budget and prepare itemization of proposed budgetary expenditures by region. So now it becomes by region. So the commissioner of the budget shall identify by region the expenditure programs of national government agencies in the national government budget and release funds national government agencies in accordance with the approved regional distribution of expenditures specifying the region of destination. Information on such releases shall be furnished to the regional directors and to the chairman of the regional development councils. So this letter of instruction 447 basically give instructions to all departments and agencies and to the commissioner of the budget. Second, let's talk about letter of instruction 448. According to Section 6, an explicit regional orientation shall be reflected in the national budget for subsequent fiscal years, whereby funding authorizations for both operating expenses and development projects are clearly indicated for the various regional office. Section 7 states, planning units or planning positions shall be established or provided, whenever necessary and indicated, in the regional offices through the budgetary process. Pending this, authorization is given in the meantime for agencies to designate regional planning officers from among qualified officials in their respective regional offices. Said regional planning officers shall be responsible for providing staff assistance to the regional directors in the development of regional plans for the respective sectors and shall for this purpose maintain liaison and coordinate with the provide assistance as necessary to the NEDA regional planning staffs in the various regions. It is clearly stated in these two letters that it is already in the regional level. the power is directly linked into the regional levels, okay, and not through the Congress anymore. So to support the two letters that was written by the President, this Presidential Decree 117 shows the regional budgeting and its specific regional budgets as well, and who will be the commissioner and the allotment of appropriations. In the post-martial law years, during the Aquino regime, regional budgeting has remained a vital part in budget preparation after the martial law regime. During the Aquino administration, the practice has taken center stage in budget preparation in view of the democratic framework that the government has installed. While the Marcos's regime has set the policy of the planning and budget linkage, in practice, the medium-term Philippine Development Plan and the medium-term Public Investment Plan have not been major inputs to the annual budget. As a result, the annual budget, not the plan, carries the burden of program prioritization, project selection, and scheduling. On May 20, 1990, the President Aquino issued a Memorandum Order number 295 directing the adoption and implementation of a synchronized planning and programming and budgeting system, or also known as SPPBS, to provide a system and institutional framework for a coordination, planning, programming, and budgeting at the national, regional, sectoral, agency, and local levels. And now we will be talking about the framework for analyzing policy goals, instruments, and institutions in regional budgeting. So this tabular form that we can see the difference between the policy goal, the policy instrument that every leader used, and the institutions involved. So as we can see at the last part of this table, that the leaders differs, like from one leader, from Marcos to Aquino to Ramos, they differ in their policies. So let's learn about this table this time. But before that, let us find the meaning first of centralized and decentralized. Centralized means that it is the concentrate or the control of an activity or organization under a single authority, just like what the Marcos like his government to be. Like it will be controlled by a superior power, or an activity will be done or controlled in a single authority. While in the other hand, decentralized government wanted to have the goal of transferring the authority from central to local government. And now let's focus on the table. As we can see that the first upper portions are more of a centralized authority or power, and the lower part shows the decentralized authority and powers. So let's talk first about Marcos's regime. So Marcos's would like to meet national priority thrusts or objectives. So the policy instrument measure that he used is the agency determined budget. So it is determined by a particular agency. As we can also see that in Aquino's time, he also used this instrument, but the goal now is to achieve regional allocative efficiency and responsiveness. Okay, and it is not the national priority that is the goal in here. It includes also Ramos's leadership to have this kind of measure. Okay, so they are using regional allocation criteria or methodology, and it also includes agency regional offices or the ARO. Moving on, as it is going further to decentralization already, Aquino also had agency determined budget using regional allocation still, criteria or methodology, and added up budget consultation at the national and regional levels as their instrument measure. But the goal in here is to achieve regional allocative efficiency and responsiveness still, but with the subnational consultation already and budget flexibility. So they are more flexible. They are learning from their past mistakes probably, or need to amend something because they found something wrong with the system. So still the ACO and the ARO is involved, but the ACO is within consultation already with ARO, and it also involves regional development councils. Now, when the time when Ramos came already, it was decentralized, okay? Because the goal this time is towards a more decentralized budgeting system and process already. So the measure or instrument of the policy used is regional block fund to be allocated by the regional body according to the region's priority needs and development objectives. The CDF or CIA of the congressman is also the policy instrument or measure that they use. The involved institutions here are the RDC in consultation. RDC again is the Regional Development Council with the consultation now with the ACO and with the AROS. So something is changing already and evolving with the involvement of institutions. And we can also say here and see here that the congressional representatives in consultation also with the LGU. It is more decentralized already during the Ramos's time. So with all this stated, if we base it to the goal of our new respected president, President Mayor Duterte, he is aiming for a new form of government which is federalism. So it will be more decentralized this time, as particular state of the country will have their own means of making the law and making the budget, earning more probably depending on the particular law of the state, and some amount will be given off for the national involvement as well. So in this goal that our beloved president is thinking, hopefully it can give us prosperity in our country and help us to earn more, and in return also help the GDP of the whole country. So here are other issues and concerns or problems that we can identify. So according to my source, we have first the syntax relating to the smoker's nirvana, or nirvana, which means like it goes in cycles, the rebirth. The smokers are still becoming plenty, the cause of the unreformed system, the components of the syntax bill. It is not that so defined that it can also lead to some dilemmas in our country. Disinformation by the tobacco lobby. So first, let's tackle about health or economic gain. So what is more important to you? Is it the health gain or the economic gain of the country? It says here the Department of Health, it seems like the smoking epidemic in the country is going higher. So even with the passage of the syntax, still the aim or the goal of not making the health of the people at risk is not reached. So the evidence shows that health-wise, we need to spend more in from the income in relation to the health budget. So another one is we have Aquino urges passage of mining or syntax reforms. So they want to have the reform in syntax and the passage also of mining are urged, and our former President Benigno Aquino III would like to pass this through the Philippine Parliament as soon as possible. Aquino also looks the reforms passage by his recent executive order, and his intent, as stated in here, is the public and private sectors that will receive just benefits from this industry. And even stated here that the government has not yet given any details on what the new increased tax measures might be. So there is lack of information, but the previous indications were that in the future mining contracts, increased revenue would be found through a hike of current 2%, or by introduction of 5% or 7% royalty on production. Whatever the reason may be, for sure that would be for economic growth. But basing from personal experience with my uncle, they tried to operate again a mining industry in Surigao, but it seems like they will be overpowered by many corporations that are illegally operating in the area. Investors are ready from different parts of the world, but still we cannot have it legalized because many people are doing it illegally. So what is the use of the particular law if it will not be properly implemented in all the mining industries and they cannot control the local area? Still, politics takes a great role of the game in here. So next is the problems identified. We have identified incorrect data of the importance of smuggling of cigarettes that is related to the sin tax and liquor to pave way for the passage of sin tax measure that is equitable and acceptable to the stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders in here? The affected people, most especially, particularly the tobacco farmers and the workers in liquor factories. So our co-Filipino citizens are the ones who are affected in this smuggling of cigarettes and liquor because of the sin tax, because the people who are making or reproducing or producing this cigarettes and liquors in our country cannot penetrate more in the market due to the fact that there are a lot of smuggles that are coming in. And now let's talk about the Federation of Philippine Industries had constantly warned on the possible increase in smuggling, had testified before that the House Ways and Means Committee that smuggling in the country has resulted 270 billion pesos in foregone revenues. So we lose these revenues because of the smuggling, and we all know that smuggling has no taxes, so we cannot gain any from those. Now, moving on, double taxation. It was announced that both sides have agreed on the adoption of new standards in tax treaty designed to provide further protection against the risk of double taxation, where the same income is taxable in the Philippines and in the country Germany. It's also aimed at preventing tax evasion and fostering cooperation between two countries by enforcing the respective tax laws. Other revenue officials said that under the tax code, even a 13th month pay and other Christmas bonuses are also subject to income tax if the amount goes beyond 30,000 per year. But some said that certain de minimis, or means that small value allowances, are tax exempted. So it's ironically saying that you will have a 13-month pay for 13-month pay and will be taxable, but the total amount of money or income that the person is having is with small value. So there's another concern in here. And another concern is the expanded value added tax. We all know that EVAT is what they think they implemented this law because they think that this is the help or the key to resolving in paying the debts of our country. But in our present situation right now, it seems like that it is making or giving more burden to the people. It is not looking at the people suffering, but rather it adds more, thanks to the character or the nature of the Filipino people, wherein we know how to adjust and just to move on with life and know how to adopt what is at stake. And now it seems like the people can deal with it already, but still we cannot get rid of the fact that the people are really struggling just to survive. And now, to have a glimpse of the past history of the economy, let's read the speech of Mr. Laya.
So that's all for our presentation. I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you again for the next assignments. Thank you.